What's going on, guys? Jim the Game Guru, your video game and board game nerd, Switch games, board games, and VR. So for this video, I am going to do 23 board games that are smaller size, easy to throw into a purse, satchel, little bag, whatever, and take with you on the go. I'm going to start with the bigger ones, and then I'm going to kind of gradually go down and get to the super tiny ones. All right, so let's start off first. Let's go ahead and do Port Royale. Port Royale. This is the press your luck game where you draw cards in a harbor area, and then you can either keep pressing your luck to eventually forfeit your turn, or you can get to a point where you can get to this trade and hire phase where you can hire individuals and they will give you permanent abilities. And in this game, the first person that gets to a certain set of victory points actually wins the game. So Port Royale, this game has several different versions out there. I ended up picking up this version. This is the German version with English instructions. The reason why I picked up this one was because it had better artwork. I thought it had better artwork than the other ones. All right, next. Mad Mobs. Mad Mobs is a party game. This is a party game where each person that's playing is a criminal. There you go, Mad Mobs. Each person playing is a criminal, and what you have to do is you have to attack every other person's assets, destroy their assets, and then eventually destroy them and knock them out of the game. The last person standing is basically the winning. And now this, just like a bunch of other party games out there, a big chunk of the game is based on its crude humor, crude language, but really cool game. Mad Mobs. This was actually recommended by a viewer. Okay, next, let's go to Taco Cat spelled backwards. Taco Cat spelled backwards. Here we go. This one is a 1v1 game that you have this actually opens up into like a Longwise, and what happens is you're trying to get this taco cat in the middle, and you have to bring him all the way to your side, or the other person has to bring it to their side. And it's just a game where you're battling with different cards. A very strange and interesting game. I mean, it is by the people that do Exploding Kittens, and you can tell by the artwork. As soon as you see it, you're like, oh, Exploding Kittens maker. Next, Super Hazard Quest. This is something I've done on a video before. Super Hazard Quest. This is a very interesting game. It is a game where you have to set up this dungeon on the fly. It's kind of like it's supposed to be like an 8-bit side scroller. So you set up this dungeon on the fly, and what happens is you navigate your characters through, and the first person that gets either the red crystal or the blue crystal, and then eventually makes it to one of the end bosses, which is the scrambler guys, will actually win the game. And in this game you had different actions in order for you to defeat like these little mini bosses. So yeah, so this is Super Hazard Quest. Very unique game, and as you can see, very small too. This next game is something I've given away on the channel quite a bit. It's Star Realms Frontier, and Hero Realms. Well, I haven't given any Hero Realms out, but I've given a couple copies of Star Realms. These are the games right here where if you want to learn deck building, these games will teach you deck building. They are the simplest. I feel like they're the simplest games for deck building that you can find. There are a bunch of deck building games out there on the market, but I feel like most of them expand on the deck building mechanics and introduce additional features, additional mechanics. But these ones right here are very simple. You just build combat damage, you build a life pool, and then you also build a money pool, and you just spend the money buying new cards, life pool to regenerate your life, and then combat pool, you use that to defeat your enemies. These games are combat games. You spend the combat damage to whittle your opponents down to 0, and if you knock everybody out, then you win. That's it. So Star Realms and Hero Realms, as you can see, very small. And we're gonna get smaller and smaller as we go. This next game is kind of cool. It's Age of Civilization. So Age of Civilization. Now this one, The thing that I really like about this is it's a civ game, civilization game, like building game. Um, and usually, like a lot of civ games have similar mechanics. They're usually like, you go through eras and you build different civilizations, or they'll have different leaders that you get through each era, or you building natural wonders, or you're increasing your technology, or building your army up. And a lot of civ games are huge. They're huge boards, and they have a lot of parts. But this is the first one that I've seen that is super, super small. I mean, you can see how small it is. And there's actually a lot of components in here. There's 2 trays in here that have a bunch of wooden little tokens and cards. And you can play this with up to 4 people. This is something I picked up recently. I haven't played it yet, so I don't know how good it is. It does have a solo variant too if you want to play by yourself. But for a civ game that's this tiny that you can take anywhere, that's super, super cool. Okay, next. A game that I've already covered on my channel, Cabo. It's one of our family favorite games. And this is the deluxe edition. See, the deluxe edition. They do have a regular version too that is much, much smaller than this. It's probably about half the size of this box. But it's a game where it plays like golf, the card game golf, but with superpowers. And you can peek and swap cards, and there's probably about 4 or 5 abilities. And the person with the least amount of points on every round wins that round. But what you want to do is you want to push somebody over 100 points. Once you push somebody over 100 points, the game is over. The person with the least amount of points wins. And it's a game where you have to memorize your cards where they are, because you're not allowed to look at them at all times. They're face down in front of you, and you have to use the special powers in order to maneuver your cards around. Super, super cool. We absolutely love this game, Cabo. Yeah, it's a family favorite. Here's an interesting one I just picked up recently, is Gudetama. Gudetama, it uses this kind of cute artwork. This is it's very popular lately. I've seen a lot of this kind of artwork on a lot of toys, like little stupid toys that really do nothing. My kids have picked up a bunch of toys based off of the Gudetama stuff that are just, they're worthless. And I thought this game was going to be the same thing. I thought it was going to be a worthless game. It's actually not the case. It's actually by Renegade Games went behind and built this, and they also built it off of a North European game called Cucumber that I have never ever played. So it is a variation of Cucumber, and there's it's a simple game. So in this game, what you do, it's a trick-taking game. And what you do is you get dealt 7 cards, and every time you play the cards, somebody's taking a trick. And you want to avoid being the last person that wins the trick. And you keep playing rounds with 7 cards, and what happens is the first person that goes over 21 or more points will cause the game to end. The person with the fewest points wins the game. And it's a kind of cool mechanics dealing with the 14 card and the 1 card in this game, where the 1 card forces every player to take a score if you have it at the very end, and then the 14 allows you to have somebody else start off the next trick. So pretty cool game. Gudetama, based off of Cucumber. Here's another party game. We got Exploding Kittens. Exploding Kittens, really small and easy to transport. This is basically a battle royale. It's a battle royale where you're trying not to draw the exploding kitten. This is another family favorite. Super easy to play. You will like this game as long as you play with enough people. I think with 2 or 3 people, it's a little on the weak side. But if you play this game with at least, like, I would say 5 or 6, it's pretty decent. And if you like that feeling of drawing cards and that suspense of not drawing the dangerous card, because as you play this game, what happens is the pile that you draw from in the middle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and this game forces you to draw at the end of your turn, unless you have a card that allows you to skip drawing. So that is Exploding Kittens. One that I just picked up recently, right here, Trophies. So Trophies, this is another party game. This is a game where you have cards, with categories. You have one person that's like the main judge. Everybody else sees cards on a different card on the outside with a letter, and they have to say a word of something that matches a category with that letter. And then basically the person that gets the most cards, and all these cards have these trophies on them. The person that has the most trophies wins the game. It's very light. There's not a whole lot in with mechanics. I mean, I feel like a game like Exploding Kittens has way more mechanics. If you're looking for a game that you want, a party game that has a little bit more mechanics, this is a little on the light side. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I guess this could be good for like a socializing, just hanging out and having a loud time playing a game that you don't want really have to focus too much on. I could see this being something you could probably drink to, very easily drink to. Here's another one you can use. It's a dice chucking game. This is Roll For It. I feel like this game, super easy to play, very family friendly. Anybody can play this game. Grandmothers, children, small children, aunts, uncles, moms, dads, you name it. Anyone can play this game. Roll For It. It's it's just basically the dice chucking game where you roll die and you try to win cards with that dice that you roll. You put a certain number of dice down until the card is won. So then when your next turn comes around, you roll and try to complete the set that's on the card in order to win the card. The first person to 40 points wins the game. Super, super easy. Easy portability too, unless you need a dice tray. And if you need a dice tray, then that can actually bulk up the travel factor on this. Some people do, because some people can't keep the dice on the table. Here's one. It's another family one too. It's by Fantasy Flight Games. This is Hey, That's My Fish. It's a super cute game. This is a good game to play if you want to play with kids. Probably kids around 8 years old or higher or older. So this game, what you do is you have these little penguins, and you move a penguin on your turn from one side to the other. Like, you have this big grid. Like this big grid of like this ice field with all these fishes and stuff, and you move a penguin from one side to another on one of the grid lines. So it's kind of like a big grid in a way. And whenever you stop your penguin after moving it, you pick up the tile that you were last on. So that last tile the penguin was on picks it up. So eventually what's happening is you have holes in this grid that you can no longer move the penguins anymore. And when you pick up the little hex pieces, they'll have fishes, and then the person with the most fish wins the game. Super easy to pick up. I feel like you spend more time in this game setting up the playing field rather than actually playing the game. But this is it's a great family game if you want to play with children. Yeah, so it's Hey, That's My Fish, which is kind of rare because that game is Fantasy Flight, and Fantasy Flight is usually into more of a hardcore fantasy games most of the time. So it looks kind of like it's something that's made from Hasbro or something rather than Fantasy Flight. Here's another one from Fantasy Flight. The next two games are going to be Fantasy Flight as well. So it's a Game of Thrones. It's a Game of Thrones. You can see how small the box is. So Fantasy Flight has these interesting certain games that they put in these tiny little packages. So this one right here, what you do is you have a grid of characters, and you need to move a specific character across this grid, and then you actually will have certain houses, and you can collect characters of those houses. And the goal in this game is to actually pick up banner tokens. The person with the most banner tokens wins the game. So a Game of Thrones is very, very minimal components in there, like mostly a few cards and some other tokens. So yeah, really, really cool. So let's go into the next one, Age of War. Now this one again from Fantasy Flight. This is another dice chucking game. It's very easy to play. You just chuck dice. You can socialize, drink, do whatever. I feel like this one is also good for, I wouldn't say young children. You probably want like somebody maybe around 10ish or older. But yeah, you just chuck die. What you do is you try to get castles. You have a bunch of castle cards in the center, and you chuck the die. You try to win those castle cards. But the cool thing about this one, that's different from like Roll for It. In Roll for It, when you win the cards, no one can steal those cards. And in this one, if you have not acquired all the castles from a clan, you can actually have people that will steal the cards from you. They'll try to roll instead of going for the center castles. They can roll and try to steal your card from you. So yeah, Age of War, really cool. I've already done a video on this. If you ever want to find out how to play it and see how it's played, just go back and take a look at one of my videos. All right, the next one is Harbor. There's 2 games on this list that are probably my favorite games ever, or one of my favorite games ever. Harbor is one of them. This game is one of those games that it's either you love it or you absolutely hate it. There's no in between. I haven't seen a single person play this game that is in between on this game. This game, what you do is you have a center market that changes based on supply and demand, and you have 4 different types of, actually I think it's 5 different types of resources. 5 different types of resources that you have to manage, and you need to sell, increase those goods, and then sell them at the market value. And then when you sell them at the market value, use the money to buy buildings. And then when you buy buildings and you put them on your side, the first person that grabs 4 of them and has the most victory points from those 4 buildings wins the game. I love the packaging. I love the artwork in this. It is a game. It's very simple to play, but it has analysis paralysis. So, like, even though you only make 1 move on your turn to put your meeple on a specific card in the center that has powers, when you do that, you have to be very careful because timing is everything. You want to maximize every little action you do every single turn. And that's where the paralysis comes in, because you're evaluating what everybody has, you're evaluating what the current market is, and you're evaluating the powers in the middle when you put your meeple down. And I absolutely love it. There's a little bit of depth in this game that just makes it super special. The artwork is fantastic. And I also have the expansion High Tide in this box. Look how small this box is, and I have the expansion in here as well. Super awesome game. I love Harbor. Love Harbor. Here's an interesting game from the Tanto Quarry series. It is Doki Doki Beach Volleyball. And this is from, like I said, it is from the Tanto Quarry. It uses the same type of characters from there, which are maids, anime-based, obviously, by looking at that. And it's a game where you're basically playing volleyball. You have to win sets of a volleyball game against an opponent. And this is a 1v1 game only. A majority of these games are you can play up to 4 players or more. But this one, and so far Taco spelled backwards, is one of the few games that are actually 1v1. You have 4 different anime characters you can choose from. And I am sorry for those people that love hentai. There is no hentai in this game. This game just has cute anime girls that are maids in here. You pick 2 of them to be on your side, and then the other player picks 2 of them to be on their side, and those 2 characters work as a team. Those individual characters have special powers, and then all the other cards are attack cards where you try to win sets. But yeah, interesting game. It's completely different, and this is Doki Doki Beach Volleyball from the Tanto Quarries. Okay, another party game, Goat Lords. I've covered this in the past. Goat Lords, I've already have a video on how to play this. Goat Lords is a dueling game. What you do is you play sets of goats, and then if somebody else has a set of goat out on the top of their pile, you can actually throw a matching goat and to duel for that pile, and then you go back and forth, and whoever wins that duel will end up taking the whole pile that's on top, and then they put it on top of their stack. And you keep going, and then you just build up points, and you build up your stack of goats, and then eventually the person at the very end of the game, when all the cards run out, the person with the most points wins the game. Very, very simple. There are actually action cards in this game too. That is another family favorite. We really enjoy that. What do we got here? Oh, Now you can see how we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now we've got D&D Dungeon Mayhem. This is one that I have not had a chance to play yet. It's very simplistic though. Looking at the rule set, you're basically you have an individual character, and this is like a battle royale. And then what you do is you play cards to attack and defend, and you need to knock people out. There's life tokens in here, and there's like a tracker where you track each person's life. And I don't know if I actually have this up there already. You whittle them down until you knock them out, and you have to knock all the other players out, and then the last person standing wins the game. So very, very simple. Small packaging, up to 4 people can play this. Ooh, what do we got here now? Oh, we've got a couple games from Stefan Bendorf, and this was by Panda Games. Looks like Panda, is it Pandasaurus Games? Yep. Published both of these, and we got The Game and Ohanami. The Game and Ohanami. I'm going to be absolutely honest. These 2 games right here, let's bring them up a little bit. I ended up picking up Ohanami. Because I was hoping it was going to be a little different than The Game. Very, very small packaging. I don't like the way the boxes are very flimsy and they open. These are card games, and what you got to do is you got to put cards in sequence by numbers. So I'm going to be a little honest with this. These are not my favorite games on the list. Nowhere near my favorite games on the list. I actually feel like they're kind of boring. And the main reason is because there's not a whole lot of mechanics. You get in positions where you get stuck, and you're just putting cards in numerical order. And if you miss a card from in the middle between a certain range, then it's tough luck. You can't put another card in there. And in the game, you're supposed to basically play with your teammates, the other people on the table, and you need to put cards in order as you go around. Each player plays 2 cards, and at the very end of the game, you're trying to have as little cards left as possible. And I think if you have less than 10 cards, then you played fantastic with your other teammates. I feel like it's a little boring. I know this game has won a few awards, but I don't know. It just, for me personally, I didn't think it was any fun. But it's a small, portable game, and if it's a type of game that maybe you think is fun, then it's something you can definitely throw in your bag and easily travel with. Next, we've got the Tiny Epic Games. Okay, so we're going, as you can see, these boxes here are bigger, right? So why, since we're going smaller and smaller and smaller, why do I have these boxes out? Because there's the Ultra Tiny Epic Games. Here you go, Ultra Tiny Epic Games. This is Ultra Tiny Galaxies. There is another one that's also Ultra Tiny Kingdoms. Then you have the regular Tiny Epic Games. I have Tiny Epic Galaxies. I have Tiny Epic Galaxies Black. Or actually, sorry, what is this one? This one's Beyond the Black. This is an expansion to Tiny Epic Galaxies. And I also have this one right here, which I think is really cool. It's Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. I actually had a video of this on how to play this. The really cool thing about Gamelin, that is the company behind this, is that they put big board games into tiny little packages, and I think they're one of the best at doing so. Now this right here, these 2 right here, right? These 2 are the same. They are the same. What's in here is in here, which is pretty amazing. And this is going to be part of my little mini giveaway on this video. If you made it this far on this video, you knew there's a mini giveaways coming up. Now, what's going on is that I originally bought this, but I no longer need this. I bought this, and I bought this as the expansion to this game. And what happened was the cards in here do not mesh with the cards in here, because this one has little mini baby cards. So I ended up having to go buy this in order to have the base game and the expansion. So now I have these 2 together, so I no longer need this. And I'm older, and my eyes don't work as well as they used to. So these cards right here are brutal on my eyes. So I did open it to look at the components, but it is basically like brand new. I have not played this one at all. Hardly ever touched it. This is going to be a little mini giveaway on this video. In the comment, I want to see you say, yo, 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 diggity dog, I want that game player. So the first person that puts that in the comments, oh man, I can't wait to see that. I'm going to get a chuckle out of that. First person that puts that in the comments, I will reach out to you and get your contact details so that we can go ahead and send this to you. I no longer need this. If you want ultra tiny epic galaxies from Gamelin, there you go. Super tiny game. Like I said, just put that in the comments and then I will reach out to you, the first person that does, and send that off to you. All right, continuing on. What do we got here? One of my favorite games. Like I said earlier, there's 2 games on this list that are just absolute favorites. So are some of my favorite games. Control. Control is awesome. Control is one small game that is just amazing. This game, what you do is you try to get to 21 points. What you do is you put cards down to make points. So when you play the cards, you can play them for two different things. Actually, 3 different things. You can play them down on your playing area for points, or you can discard the card and use its ability, or you can discard the card and use it to diffuse a card. So using an ability and diffusing a card is not the same thing. Totally, totally different. So 3 different things that you can do. This game plays up to 4 people. 4 people. If you play 1v1, which is what I've done, I probably played over 100 games 1v1 in this game. And this game is so well balanced. There's so many times where I've gone to overtime in this game. So many times. You can play 1 to 4 people. If you play 1v1, you split the deck into 2 decks, and each person has their own private deck. If you play 3 or 4, you have 1 deck in the center, and everyone uses that same deck, and if you play 4 players, it's a 2v2, which is really, really, really cool. All right, so there's Control. And here's a game that I'm going to have a giveaway later on. I'm going to have a giveaway in a future video. It's called Love Letter. Love Letter. In this game, you can see how small the lovely packaging is. It's just a little tiny drawstring. And there you go. And there's your cards in there. And your tokens are in there, and the card, and there's the instruction manual that's in here too. The instruction manual is really small. It's a little smaller than the actual cards that you play with. But in this game, it's all about delivering a letter to a princess, and what you do is in every round, you try to knock people out or have the highest value at the end of the round. And what you do is if you're able to do that, then you get the favor of the princess, which means you get a token. And the person that gets the required amount of tokens in order to satisfy end of game conditions first wins the game. So yeah, so Love Letter, another really, really small card game. I believe this is 4 people, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Oh no, it's 6 people. You can play up to 6 people. 6 people with this tiny game. So super cool. I love the cards. They look really, really nice. And I like the powers of all the characters on the cards. All the cards are characters, basically. Or type of characters, I should say. And they all have special abilities, and they're all different. And they'll definitely put you in positions where you got to think of the right card to play at the right time without getting knocked out yourself. So really, really cool. Love Letter. So the last game on this long list is a game from I think it's designed by Chris Handy, and it's from Pack of Games. And take a look, guys. Take a look at these games. Look how small. Look how small they are. Look at that. They are the size of a pack of gum, basically. Yeah, I had to give it to Chris Handy on this. I think it's really cool that they made these super, super tiny games. These games only have cards in them. They have thin cards. And what you do is you play the cards in each of the games. Each of the games will have different rules, but you play the cards in a certain way and match them in a certain way and play them down in a certain way. In some of the games, it will be like 2 players that are only 1v1, and some of these games will be up to like 4 people, which is absolutely cool. Now, when you go to a game this size, right? When you go to this game, you're gonna lose something. I mean, you're naturally gonna lose. I mean, there's no way you can go this size and have a full board game experience. You can't. It's impossible. I feel like the smallest you can go to have a full board game experience is something like this from Gameland, the ultra tiny epic games. This is the smallest that you can go because this is gonna actually have meeples in there. It's gonna have the cards, it's gonna have like a player board. And when you get down to these little tiny games, these little baby games, you're gonna lose something because you're gonna be sacrificing some of the meeples, you're gonna be sacrificing the player board, and it's just gonna get very basic. But that is just the nature of the beast. Just because there's such tiny packages, there's no way to put a full board game experience in these games. All right, well, yeah, those are really cool. So that is it. That's 23 games, guys. Super tiny. You could throw them into like a purse, satchel, small handbag, whatever, or even like this in your pocket. Just slap it in your pocket and you're out to go. But anyway, I am Jim the Game Guru. If you guys like this video, please like, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.